What happens when two of the world's most advanced carrier-based fighters prepare to face each other across the Pacific? One represents decades of American dominance in naval aviation. The other symbolizes China's determination to break into that same elite club. On one side is the F-35C Lightning II, the stealth jet that the U.S. Navy calls a flying data center. On the other side is the J-35, China's new stealth carrier fighter, supported by the battle-tested J-15 Flying Shark. But beyond the statistics and the politics, the real question is, what do the pilots themselves think, and which jet would they trust their lives to in a confrontation over the South China Sea? This video isn't about cheering for one side or predicting an inevitable war. Instead, it's about examining the technology, the strategy, and the human factor, the pilots in the cockpit, who ultimately decide whether these aircraft are as powerful as their nations claim. By the end, you'll have a clearer sense of not just which plane is rated higher, but why that matters in the tense standoff between the US and China. The South China Sea has become one of the most contested regions on Earth. Every year, American carrier strike groups patrol the waters, demonstrating Washington's commitment to freedom of navigation. Each time, Chinese warships and aircraft shadow them, asserting Beijing's territorial claims. These encounters are usually restrained, but they send a message. Both sides are preparing for the possibility, however remote, of a direct clash. Now picture this scenario. The U.S. Navy's newest supercarrier, the USS Gerald R. Ford, launches a formation of F-35Cs. Across the horizon, China's Type 0303 Fujian responds with its own J-15C and the prototype J-35. Two nations, two doctrines, and two fighter jets, staring each other down above the world's busiest sea lanes. In this high-stakes environment, it's natural to ask, which aircraft would really dominate the skies? For American naval aviators, the F-35C is more than a fighter. It's a revolution. Built with stealth shaping and radar-absorbent materials, it is designed to strike first without being seen. Pilots describe it as an information advantage machine. Unlike older jets that rely on the pilot's eyes and radar, the F-35C fuses data from multiple sensors, satellites, and allied aircraft, then displays it on the pilot's helmet. That means an F-35C pilot often knows where the enemy is long before the enemy knows they've been spotted. Pilots emphasize another key point. The F-35C isn't meant to fight alone. It thrives in a networked battlespace. Imagine a formation of F-35s sharing data with Aegis destroyers, E-2D Hawkeyes, and even satellites. The pilot becomes less of a lone gunfighter and more of a conductor, orchestrating strikes beyond visual range. As one U.S. Navy aviator put it, it's not about dogfighting, it's about never letting the fight get close. But even American pilots admit the F-35C has limitations. It's expensive, complex to maintain, and not as agile in a close-in dogfight as some fourth-generation fighters. Yet they insist its strengths outweigh its weaknesses. One pilot described it like this: if you're fighting an F-35C within visual range, something has already gone terribly wrong. Now shift to the Chinese side. For years, the J-15 Flying Shark has been China's only carrier-based fighter. It's based on the Russian Su-33 design, large and powerful, but with well-known issues. Limited range, difficulty operating from ski-jump carriers, and a lack of stealth. Pilots have reported challenges with reliability and safety, leading to several accidents during training. That's why the J-35 is so important. Still in testing, it is China's attempt to leap into the fifth-generation era. Externally, it resembles a blend of the American F-35 and F-22, twin engines, stealth shaping, and a design optimized for carrier operations. Chinese state media has portrayed it as proof that Beijing is closing the gap with the U.S. Navy. Pilots who have tested the J-35, according to reports, praise its modern cockpit and improved avionics compared to the J-15. They highlight its role as not just a fighter, but as part of an evolving doctrine. Integrating stealth fighters with drones launched from carriers. This could allow Chinese pilots to extend their eyes and weapons range using unmanned wingmen, something the US is also working on, but has not yet fully deployed. Still, even Chinese analysts admit the J-35 is unproven. It hasn't flown from an operational carrier in combat conditions. Its stealth coatings, electronic warfare capabilities, and radar performance remain uncertain. To many outside observers, the J-35 represents ambition more than achievement, at least for now. So let's imagine the scenario pilots themselves sometimes train for. The USS Gerald R. Ford launches a patrol of F-35Cs. Across the water, the Fujian carrier responds with J-35s escorted by J-15s. The two forces close in. At long range, the advantage likely lies with the F-35C. Its stealth profile makes it difficult to detect on radar, and its advanced sensors allow it to fire beyond visual range missiles, like the AIM-120D. In theory, American pilots could shoot before being seen. Pilots describe this as the first look, first shot, first kill doctrine. But the Chinese side has potential counters. If J-35s operate with carrier-based drones providing early warning, they might detect the F-35Cs sooner than expected. Supported by powerful land-based radar and anti-air networks on the Chinese coast, the J-35 could benefit from a larger web of surveillance. In such a case, the battle might come down to electronic warfare, jamming, deception, and who can disrupt the other's networks. And what if the fight closes to visual range? Here, agility and pilot training matter most. The F-35C is not known as a classic dogfighter, but American pilots are highly trained in tactics and cooperative fighting. The J-35 may be more maneuverable, but without real combat experience, its edge remains uncertain. As one retired US pilot noted, technology gets you to the merge. Training decides what happens after. When American pilots look at the J-35, many acknowledge it as a serious effort, but one that is still catching up. They see it as comparable on paper, but untested in the harsh reality of combat. Some even admit that in large numbers, J-35s could pose a genuine challenge. Quantity has a quality of its own, one pilot remarked. Chinese pilots, for their part, often express respect for the F-35C, but also point to its cost and maintenance demands. They argue that China doesn't need to match every feature, as long as the J-35 can operate effectively in China's home waters under the umbrella of land-based defenses. For them, the goal isn't to dominate the Pacific outright, but to deny the US Navy uncontested control. So which jet is rated higher? Among independent analysts and many pilots, the F-35C remains the benchmark, stealthier, more integrated, more combat-ready. But the J-35 is seen as the rising challenger, representing China's determination to learn, adapt, and eventually compete head-to-head. Ultimately, comparing the F-35C and J-35 isn't just about aircraft. It's about two very different strategies. The US Navy relies on global power projection, sending carriers anywhere, anytime, with jets like the F-35C as the tip of the spear. China's strategy is regional, building enough capability to secure the South China Sea and deter US intervention near its shores. That's why the debate over which jet is better cannot be separated from geography, allies, and doctrine. An F-35C flying from a US carrier near the Philippines may have the advantage. But a J-35 operating close to Chinese shores, supported by land-based radars and missiles, could flip the equation. The pilot reactions reflect this. Americans confident in global superiority, Chinese confident in their regional defenses. So, after exploring both sides, what's the real answer? The F-35C is rated higher today, thanks to its proven stealth, advanced sensor fusion, and experienced pilots. It is a weapon designed not just for combat, but for control of information and the battlespace itself. The J-35, however, is more than just a copy or a prototype. It represents China's ambition to close the gap, and perhaps with enough time and numbers to challenge American dominance. The truth is, there may never be a single decisive moment where these two jets meet in battle. Instead, They will compete in exercises, patrols, and the perceptions of the pilots who fly them. And perhaps that's the point. The hypersonic pace of technology, the human factor in the cockpit, and the strategic choices of nations all combine to create a rivalry that defines our era. So, what do you think? If one F-35C faced a formation of J-35s, how many would it take to tip the balance? And in the eyes of the pilots, which jet would inspire more confidence? Share your thoughts in the comments, subscribe for more in-depth analysis, and join me next time as we explore how military technology is shaping not just the skies, but the future of global power.